Peppa's Australian Underwater Adventure. Peppa was very excited. She had just won a Great Barrier Reef art competition at the aquarium. "Congrats, Peppa," said Miss Rabbit. "Your prize is to join me on a marine biology trip to Australia."
Wow!
"Hooray!" cheered Peppa. "What's marine biology?" "It's learning about the plants and animals that live in the sea," explained Miss Rabbit. "Ooh," said Peppa. "We're going to stay with Mrs. Kangaroo," continued Miss Rabbit. "She will teach us how to scuba dive in the Great Barrier Reef." "What an amazing prize for a competition," said Mummy Pig, a bit surprised. "Well, Peppa's drawing was very imaginative," said Miss Rabbit. "Her picture wasn't exactly like any fish I have ever seen, but it was a prize-winning picture." "I see," said Mummy Pig. "There's nothing wrong with a bit of imagination, is there?" "Of course, you, Daddy Pig and George will be coming to Australia too," Miss Rabbit told Mummy Pig. "How lovely," replied Mummy Pig. "Thank you, Mrs. Rabbit." Peppa and her family are very excited to be seeing their friends in Australia again.
Hooray!
"We'll be leaving first thing tomorrow," said Miss Rabbit. "Right then," said Mummy Pig. "We'd better head to the shops and get everything we need for the trip." Peppa, George, Mammy and Daddy Pig headed to Mr. Fox's shop and told him what they needed. Mr. Fox got everything out. "Now," he said, "I think you'll also need some paper and colouring pens. You never know when they might come in handy." "I'm not sure we do," began Mummy Pig. "Trust me, Mummy Pig," Mr. Fox interrupted. "You'll definitely need these." "Oh, okay then," said Mummy Pig. "Thank you for your help, Mr. Fox. We must get going now so we can pack all of this." The next morning, Peppa and her family woke up very early and hopped on the aeroplane to Australia. "Where's Miss Rabbit?" asked Daddy Pig. "I think she's finding her own way there," replied Mummy Pig. While Peppa, George, Mammy and Daddy Pig flew on an aeroplane, Miss Rabbit travelled to Australia by hot air balloon, helicopter and boat. Ahoy there! Amazingly, Miss Rabbit arrived in Australia at the exact same time as Peppa and her family. "Welcome to Australia, everyone," said Miss Kangaroo. "It's so good to see you," said Kylie Kangaroo, giving Peppa a big hug. After they were settled in, Mrs. Kangaroo went through the diving plan with Kylie, Peppa and Miss Rabbit. "There are so many amazing creatures to discover in the Great Barrier Reef," she explained. "It's an incredible place." Mrs. Kangaroo taught Peppa about diving and marine biology.
Wow!
"What does buddy up mean?" asked Peppa. "It means we are going to dive in a group," explained Miss Kangaroo. She held up a list of creatures they were going to see and count on their underwater adventure. Green sea turtles, orange clownfish, blue starfish, pink sea anemones, and even whales. "Wow!" gasped Peppa. She was so excited. Mrs. Kangaroo drove everyone to the boat. Then they hopped on board with their diving gear and headed out to the diving site. When the boat stopped, Mrs. Kangaroo gave Peppa and Kylie a special underwater list each. "It's important that we count the marine life carefully," she said. "If you spot anything unusual, let me know." Then Peppa, Miss Rabbit, Kylie and Mrs. Kangaroo jumped backwards off the boat. They dived deep down under the water to the reef. The divers saw lots of amazing plants and animals on the reef. They spotted 5 orange clownfish, 4 pink sea anemones, 3 brilliant blue starfish, 2 big green turtles, and 1 enormous whale. "Wow!" said Peppa. "It's so colourful down here." Peppa and Miss Rabbit followed the whale further into the reef. Peppa used her diving fins to swim as fast as she could to keep up, and Miss Rabbit paddled along behind her. The whale pointed its fin at a big rock. Peppa peered behind the rock and saw a fish that wasn't on Mrs. Kangaroo's list, poking its head out. "That looks just like the fish I coloured in," said Peppa. At the end of the dive, everyone climbed back on board the boat. "We counted so many creatures," said Peppa excitedly. "It was amazing. I also spotted a beautiful fish that wasn't on your list, Miss Kangaroo." "What did it look like, Peppa?" asked Kylie. "It looked a bit like a clownfish," said Peppa, "but not exactly." Said Mrs. Kangaroo. "Can you describe it a bit more, Peppa?" Peppa used the colouring pens from Mr. Fox's shop to draw the fish she had seen. It looked just like her picture from the aquarium. "Wow, that's a lovely fish, Peppa," said Kylie. "Peppa is very good at drawing," said Miss Rabbit. "I don't believe it," gasped Mrs. Kangaroo when she saw Peppa's drawing. "It looks just like a rare blue clownfish. Wow! That hasn't been seen for a while now. Where did you spot it, Peppa?" Peppa took everyone back to where she had seen the unusual fish. Mrs. Kangaroo had been searching for the blue clownfish for a long time. Peppa spotted the whale winking at her in the distance. "Thank you for showing us the fish, lovely whale," Peppa said, winking back. After Mrs. Kangaroo had taken lots of photographs of the fish, she signalled for everyone to swim up to the boat and head back to the shore. That afternoon, Mrs. Kangaroo and her family cooked a big meal to celebrate Peppa's amazing discovery. "What do you think of the Great Barrier Reef, Peppa?" asked Daddy Pig. "It's the most brilliant place ever," replied Peppa. "The fish are just like I imagined they would be." She held up her picture from the art competition. It looked exactly like the fish she had seen on her dive. Everyone laughed. Peppa loves the beautiful Great Barrier Reef. Everyone loves the beautiful Great Barrier Reef. The end. Peppa's Playdate. Today, Peppa is having a playdate at her house. Peppa has invited Mandy Mouse and Pandora and Peggy, the panda twins. "Why don't you get some toys out, Peppa?" says Mummy Pig. "Think about what your friends might like to play with." But I don't know what my friends will want to do, sighs Peppa, getting lots of toys out of the cupboard to take downstairs. Don't worry, Peppa, says Daddy Pig. I'll set up some crafts for you to do. And I'll set up some games for you to play, says Mummy Pig. Daddy Pig lays out all the craft things on the table. Perfect, he says. They'll love these, says Mummy Pig, setting up all the games in the living room. Ding dong! Just then, the doorbell rings. They're here, shouts Peppa, running to the door. Peggy, Pandora and Mandy all go into Peppa's house. Do you have a garden, Peppa? asks Mandy. Yes. Great, says Mandy. Come on, everyone, let's go outside. The friends go to the garden and play lots of games. They play a game of princesses, pirates and giants. Uh-oh, gasped Peggy. I see a shadow of a big bad giant. Oh no! Ah! Everyone shouts. Snacks, anyone? Says Daddy Pig. Oh, it's you, Daddy, says Peppa. We thought you were a giant. Each play date is the best and we want to stay here all day, says Pandora. Yes, we want to stay here all day, repeats Peggy. It's time for Mandy, Pandora and Peggy to go home, calls Mummy Pig. Aww, everyone sighs. But we didn't do your craft, Daddy, says Peppa, or play Mammy's games. That's okay. You made your own fun, didn't you, says Daddy Pig. Yes, everyone cheers. When Mandy, Peggy and Pandora all go home, Peppa asks, Can I have my friends over for a play date tomorrow, Mummy? Says Mummy Pig, looking at the mess. How about next week? Or you could go to Mandy's house for a play date, suggests Daddy Pig. Great idea, says Mummy Pig. Peppa loves play dates. Everyone loves play dates. The end. Peppa goes to Ireland. Peppa and George were packing their suitcases, ready to go to Ireland for an Irish dancing festival.
Wow!
Peppa was so excited, she couldn't stop dancing. How will we get to Ireland, Daddy? She asked. Will we dance all the way there? Daddy Pig laughed. No, Peppa. Ireland is a long way away. We need to fly or take a boat. Said Mummy Pig. I don't think we'll fit everything on an aeroplane. Do we really need all this? Asked Daddy Pig. Mummy Pig nodded. You never know what will come in handy on holiday. Okay, said Daddy Pig. We'll take the ferry instead. We can't take a ferry, Daddy, gasped Peppa. A ferry is too small to carry us. Not a ferry, Peppa, said Daddy Pig. A ferry. It's a big boat that can carry cars and people. Oh, said Peppa. That's much better. Once Mummy and Daddy Pig had squeezed everything into the car, they set off for the ferry port. Hooray! We're going to Ireland, sang Peppa excitedly while practicing her Irish dancing steps. Madame Gazelle said I must rehearse my dancing. There's not really room in the car for dance practice, Peppa, said Daddy Pig. We're a bit squished. When they reached the port, Daddy Pig drove their little car inside the enormous ferry that was waiting to take them to Ireland.
"It's a bit bigger than Grandpa's boat,"
said Peppa. The ferry honked loudly. "Just a bit," Daddy Pig shouted over the noise. On the ferry crossing, Peppa and George went out on the deck. Peppa spotted Ireland in the distance.
"It's so lovely and green," she cried.
"Isn't it beautiful?" said Daddy Pig. "People call Ireland the Emerald Isle because it's green like an emerald."
"Mummy looks a bit green too," said Peppa. "Are you feeling all right, Mummy?"
"The sea's a bit choppy for me today," said Mummy Pig. When they reached Ireland, the sat-nav gave Daddy Pig directions to the Irish Dancing Festival. "Follow the winding roads, in and out, then up and down, and over the hills," it said. After a while, Daddy Pig stopped the car so they could have a proper look around. Peppa and George practiced their Irish dancing, up and down and over the hills. As they got to the top of the biggest hill, Peppa spotted Miss Rabbit in a souvenir shop.
"Hello, Miss Rabbit," said Peppa. "What are you doing here?"
"Hello, Peppa," said Miss Rabbit. "I'm selling souvenirs."
"Look at the Irish dancing outfits," gasped Peppa. "Can we get some for the Irish Dancing Festival, Daddy, please?"
"Okay," Daddy Pig said. 4 Irish dancing outfits, please. They can be our little bit of green Ireland to take home." Mammy Pig looked at the other things Miss Rabbit was selling. "Ooh," she said, "I've always wanted one of those, and one of those, and one of those, and..." Soon, Mammy Pig had bought one of everything in Miss Rabbit's souvenir shop. "Are you sure we have room for all this in the car?" asked Daddy Pig. "Don't worry," said Mammy Pig. "I'll find a way to fit it all in." After Mummy Pig's expert packing, Daddy Pig continued the journey along the winding roads.
"Are we at the festival yet?"
asked Peppa. "I think it's just around this bend," said Daddy Pig. Peppa looked eagerly out of the window.
"It's not! Are we at the festival yet now?"
"I think it's just around this bend," said Daddy Pig. Peppa looked out the window again.
"No," she sighed. "It's not."
"Oh no!"
"Will it be much longer?"
asked Peppa. "Why don't we ask the sat-nav?" suggested Mammy Pig. "Your destination is around the next bend," said the sat-nav. When they finally arrived at the Irish Dancing Festival, the sat-nav said, "You have reached your destination." "Hooray!" everyone cheered.
"It's a bit quiet,"
said Peppa as they got out of the car.
"Why can't we hear any music?"
At the festival stage, they found Miss Rabbit again.
"I'm afraid we might have to cancel the festival," she said. "Some of the band have forgotten their instruments."
"Oh no," Peppa said. But then she had a thought.
"What instruments do they need?"
"An accordion, a tin whistle and a fiddle," said Miss Rabbit.
"I think we might have those in our car,"
cried Peppa. Mummy and Daddy Pig checked the car and pulled out an accordion, a tin whistle and a fiddle.
Wow!
"You never know what will come in handy on holiday," said Mummy Pig, smiling. "That's very true, Mummy Pig," said Daddy Pig. Miss Rabbit gathered everyone at the festival together.
Thanks to Peppa and her family, the Irish Dancing Festival can now begin, she said. Hooray! Everyone cheered. Peppa and her family changed into their Irish dancing outfits. The band played their music and everyone started dancing. Irish dancing is the best, cried Peppa. I just can't stop.
Me neither, said Daddy Pig, going quite red.
You're not green like Ireland, Daddy, said Peppa. You're red.
Daddy Pig chuckled. Thanks, Peppa. Everyone was having so much fun dancing, they didn't notice it was beginning to rain. Luckily, Miss Rabbit appeared with a basket full of welly boots.
It's getting a bit too muddy to dance now, said Miss Rabbit, frowning. Yes, said Peppa, but it's the perfect amount of muddy to do this. What a wonderful idea, said Miss Rabbit.
Everyone at the Irish Dancing Festival jumped up and down in muddy puddles with Peppa. Peppa and her family love Ireland, and they love jumping up and down in Irish muddy puddles. The end. Peppa is kind. This is Peppa Pig. Peppa is kind. Kindness means you are nice to others. There are lots of ways to be kind. Peppa shows George just how kind she is. She lets him pick which show to watch on TV. George is kind to Peppa too. Twang, bang, bing. They make music together. Peppa is kind to Daddy Pig. She laughs at his silly jokes. That makes Daddy Pig feel great. Peppa is kind to Mummy Pig. They fly a kite together.
Wow!
Peppa is kind to Granny and Grandpa Pig. She waters flowers with them. Peppa is kind to her friends. She invites Susie to a tea party. Susie is kind too. Thank you, Peppa, she says. Saying thank you is kind. Peppa and her friends visit Pedro at the hospital. Visiting a friend when they're not feeling well is one of the kindest things you can do. What else is kind? Sharing a swing with a friend. Peppa and Rebecca swing together at the park. Peppa helps wash the family car. Mummy and Daddy Pig think that's very kind. Peppa is kind to her neighbours. Peppa and Zoe give them juice on a hot summer day. Peppa is kind to animals. Peppa and George give duck feed to the ducks in the pond. Peppa makes hot chocolate on a cold day. She shares it with Susie and George and even adds marshmallows on top.
Wow!
And being kind means doing things together, like playing games. There are lots of ways to be kind. Peppa is kind to herself too. She tries out new hobbies, like roller skating. She also learns how to jump rope. Peppa makes sure that she gets proper exercise to be healthy. And she gets plenty of rest. Peppa loves kindness. Everyone loves being kind. The end. Peppa Pig, Creepy Cobwebs. Look at all the cobwebs. Mummy Pig says that cobwebs mean spiders, and spiders are creepy. Peppa likes creepy things. When it gets dark, she makes scary faces with her torch. What else is scary? A wiggly worm? Fizzing fireworks? Or a rocket ride to the moon? At the museum, George meets a very scary dinosaur. Luckily, it is only a robot. Even Daddy Pig gets the creeps sometimes. Don't worry, it's only Mr. Skinny Legs. And if things ever get too scary, Mummy Pig is there to give everybody a big piggy cuddle. The end. Peppa Pig, Grandpa Pig to the rescue. Grandpa Pig is taking Peppa and George for a ride on his little train, Gertrude. Gertrude has rubber wheels so we don't have to go on train tracks, says Grandpa Pig.
Wow!
I love Gertrude, says Peppa. Miss Rabbit is in her big train, taking the grown-ups to work. Morning, Grandpa Pig, calls Miss Rabbit. Out on your toy train again. Gertrude is not a toy. She is a miniature locomotive, says Grandpa Pig. The big train is going very fast. It can go much faster than Gertrude. Oh no, the big train has broken down. Gertrude catches up with Miss Rabbit's big train. You need to get yourself a train that doesn't break down like Gertrude, says Grandpa Pig. That's a good idea, says Miss Rabbit. I'm borrowing your little train. All change, calls Mr. Rabbit. All the passengers climb into Gertrude and Grandpa Pig is left behind. Oh no! Mrs. Cow is waiting for the train at the next station. Has the train shrunk? asks Mrs. Cow. No, this is a toy train, says Miss Rabbit. Gertrude is not a toy train. She is a miniature locomotive, says Peppa. There's a traffic jam on the road, so Miss Rabbit takes a shortcut.
Bonk, bonk.
Hello, ducks, calls Peppa as they ride past the duck pond. Gertrude might not be very fast, but at least she can ride on the grass. Gertrude crawls up the very steep hill.
Wow!
You can make it, cheer the passengers. Gertrude reaches the top of the hill very slowly. By the time she reaches the last station, it will be time for everyone to go home again. Back down the line, Grandpa Pig is trying to mend the big train. Grandpa Pig loves mending things.
So many interesting bits and bobs, says Grandpa Pig, but can he put them back together again? Finally, Gertrude reaches the station, and so does Grandpa Pig with the big train.
You've mended it,
says Peppa. All change, calls Mr. Rabbit. Everyone gets in the big train ready to go home. Off we go, says Miss Rabbit.
Stop!
Cries Peppa.
What about Gertrude? We can't leave her behind.
Don't worry, we can take the toy train as well, says Miss Rabbit. She uses a crane to hoist Gertrude into the big train.
Wow!
Gertrude is not a toy, says Grandpa Pig. We know, says Miss Rabbit. She is a miniature locomotive. Miss Rabbit drives all the passengers and Gertrude home.
Hooray!
Everyone agrees that Gertrude is the best miniature locomotive in the whole world.
Gertrude is the best train in the whole world,
says Peppa. The end. Peppa Pig, Peppa and the Flying Vet. Peppa has brought Goldie the fish to the vet for a checkup. You've got a healthy fish, Peppa, says Dr. Hamster.
Thank you, says Peppa.
Suddenly, Dr. Hamster's telephone rings. It is Mr. Elephant.
Hello, Dr. Hamster, he says. We found a sick lizard in the mountains. It's a gecko, not a lizard,
adds Edmund Elephant. I'll be right there, says Dr. Hamster. Dr. Hamster springs into action.
Can we come too?
asks Peppa. Of course, replies the vet. All aboard the aeroplane. I didn't know you had an aeroplane, Dr. Hamster, says Mammy Pig. Oh yes, replies Dr. Hamster proudly. I'm the flying vet. Mr. Elephant spots the aeroplane in the sky.
Thank goodness, he exclaims. The vet is here.
When Dr. Hamster lands, she calls, Where's the sick lizard?
This poor lizard is upside down,
says Dr. Hamster, flipping it over. There, he's all better. Then Dr. Hamster's mobile phone rings.
This must be another emergency, she says,
answering the call.
Hello, Grandpa Pig here,
says Grandpa Pig.
It's Polly, she's sick.
I'll be right there, promises Dr. Hamster. So Peppa, George and Mammy Pig jump back into the aeroplane.
Look, Polly, it's the flying vet,
cries Grandpa Pig when he sees the airplane.
We're going into the sea,
cries Peppa. This is a seaplane, Peppa, says Dr. Hamster.
We can land on the water.
Polly has been ill since we got on board, explains Grandpa Pig.
She must be seasick,
says Dr. Hamster. And when Grandpa Pig puts Polly on dry land, she soon feels much better. Dr. Hamster's mobile phone rings again. It is Daddy Pig in his office. There are some ducklings stuck on our roof, says Daddy Pig. You're just in time, says Daddy Pig.
Mrs. Duck laid her eggs on our roof,
says Mrs. Cat.
Meow.
And they hatched, adds Mr. Rabbit. But the ducklings don't know the way to the pond.
Who can make a quacking noise? asked Dr. Hamster. Quack, quack, says Peppa, and the ducklings follow her back to the pond. Dr. Hamster's phone rings for a fourth time. Is it another emergency? asked Peppa hopefully. Yes, that was Mr. Hamster, says Dr. Hamster. I'm late for tea. Must fly. Thanks for your help, everyone cries, waving her off in her airplane. No problem, Dr. Hamster calls. It's all in a day's work for the flying vet. The end. Peppa Pig, Peppa's busy day. It is 7 o'clock. Move the big hand to the 12 and the little hand to the 7. At 7 o'clock in the morning, Peppa wakes up. Time to get up, George, cries Peppa. It is 8 o'clock. Move the big hand to the 12 and the little hand to the 8. At 8 o'clock, Peppa has breakfast. Yummy, says Peppa. Can I have some more, please? It is 9 o'clock. Move the big hand to the 12 and the little hand to the 9. At 9 o'clock, Peppa and George go to playgroup. Dinosaur, says George. It is 12 o'clock. Move the big hand to the 12 and the little hand to the 12. At 12 o'clock, Madame Gazelle takes everyone for a picnic lunch. I love picnics, says Peppa. It is 2 o'clock. Move the big hand to the 12 and the little hand to the 2. At 2 o'clock, Mammy and Daddy Pig pick up Peppa and George in their car. Toot toot! It is 3 o'clock. Move the big hand to the 12 and the little hand to the 3. At 3 o'clock, Peppa and George go to the playground. Swing time, shouts Peppa and Rebecca Rabbit. It's 6 o'clock. Move the big hand to the 12 and the little hand to the 6. At 6 o'clock, it's time for dinner. Pancakes, cheers Peppa. They're my favourite. It is 7 o'clock. Move the big hand to the 12 and the little hand to the 7. At 7 o'clock, Peppa and George get ready for bed. Time to scrub and brush, says Peppa. It is 8 o'clock. Move the big hand to the 12 and the little hand to the 8. At 8 o'clock, it's bedtime. Mammy and Daddy Pig come in to say goodnight. But Peppa and George are fast asleep. The end.
Hi kids, did you have fun watching this video? Then like and subscribe for more.